Welcome back, or welcome to the Singletrack podcast. I'm your host, Finn Melanson, and this has become an annual thing. It is our 2025 year in review, although in the process, we will be looking ahead to 2026. We're recording this in mid-January of 2026, and I have the honor and pleasure of being joined by friend, colleague, Scott Hickenlooper, who will be in the interviewer seat, and I've asked Scott to help us go through our traditional list of questions at the end of the year, beginning of the new one, and also, as needed, to ask follow-ups or clarifying questions or, you know, noting points of interest that y'all might be curious for us to dive into further. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, we're in our studio here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and our production quality, as you can see, is very much ramped up thanks to Scott. I think last year I recorded this directly into our Riverside app on my desktop, and I think the video was so bad I didn't even publish something to YouTube. I just did the audio to our RSS feed. So we're getting this one on YouTube this year too. That's one of our big novelties. But Scott, great to have you here. How are you doing today?
Doing great. It's always an honor to join the Singletrack pod. As I'm sure a lot of people know, I've listened to the pod for years since I started running years ago, and um, I think, what was it, 2024? We kind of traveled around the country filming a whole bunch of stuff together. So it's always fun to, I think, come back and be able to work together again and produce some tent to sling some tent out on the internet, and I think this will be fun.
Yeah, I think just to kind of throw one more thing in there, for people that are interested in the business side of things, I believe the hardest, and people will debate this, like there's various stages of a business. I personally believe the most challenging time in a business's history is the 0 to 1 moment. And I think you were instrumental in getting us from 0 to 1, especially on YouTube. And that was sort of a launching pad. And we had some significant growth this past year, but like you were really instrumental in that like framework building piece. So grateful for you.
Thank you, sir. Grateful for you as well. I feel like you gave me a foot in the door in this sport. So I was a fan of the sport and a participant of the sport, and I feel like working together, I was able to like meet some incredible people on the media side and the athlete side in the sport, and it was a blast. Stream Bean going up and seeing his childhood home up in Lake City. Yes.
Yeah, we got to experience Lake City Vert, and we got to see Steppy in the flesh. And yeah, we had that day out on Tiger Mountain where he did 8 hours of laps on, was it Cable Line?
Yeah, and I remember it like uploaded to Strava and nobody knew he was doing Barkley, and he had to be like, what's he doing 8 hours on Tiger Mountain for? It's February raining. Yeah, that was fun.
Let's get into the questions.
Okay. So first question I have here for you, Finn. This is a combo of, I think, questions you wanted to recap and update the audience on, and there's a mix of audience questions in here as well. But first question, why are you doing this? Why do you do the end of year kind of State of Singletrack?
I feel like we're walking a very narrow line here because it's easy to step off the path and get into this super self-serving, self-congratulatory conversation. And maybe we do end up going there. But as a consumer of this type of stuff, some of my favorite episodes of all the podcasts that I follow is when they take a moment, an episode, to self-reflect, work a little bit more with the garage door open, and confide in the audience about what's been going on, why we made the decisions that we made, where we're going in the future. Yeah, just giving you insight into our process. I'm sure this episode is not for everyone. You're probably wondering, like, why are we not talking about the next trail running event, Black Canyon, something like that? And we will, of course. But yeah, this is the one time each year where I turn the mic on myself and reflect. And so for those that are business minded or state of sport minded or wondering how we stay afloat and how we've survived into, I guess this is going to be year 5 of Singletrack, this is the episode for you.
Love it. Okay, so over the last year, this question here, who were you listening to? What was your, I guess, creative inspiration throughout the year, and who would you want to say thanks to in the media space and trail?
One of the things that I'm most excited about heading into 2026 is how increasingly sophisticated the media space is getting in trail. And there are many of us, I think, that are doing great work. The and we got Sloan, I think, crying in the background. So hopefully we don't pick that up. It's actually, you know what? No, this is good. This is organic. Sloan, my daughter, just woke up from a nap. There are, yeah, I'm a super fan of the sport, so I tune into just about everything. A few that come to mind: Next Aid Station, Steep Stuff, Trail Network, Trail Society, Free Trail, Everyday Ultra. I mean, I listen to every single one out there. Those are just a few that come to mind where I'm pretty consistently tuning in for various reasons. And, when we put out our product on a weekly basis, I would be lying if I didn't say that a lot of our inspiration comes from them. We've had episodes where people are like, "This is not original. Like, what are you doing? You're just copying off of Everyday Ultra or Free Trail." And I'm like, absolutely. Like it's kind of like we're all this one big jam band and we're kind of riffing off each other. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that a good percentage of our catalog last year came from an idea that I heard on Next Aid Station or Free Trail or Women of Distance, a guest idea or a topic or whatever. There was an episode where you know, Tim Tollefson and Dylan Bowman had this fantastic conversation sort of about the state of events and, the UTMB relationship in the sport and, the fate of independent events. And I loved that episode. And then I had follow-up questions for Tim, because Tim was sort of the guest there. And I think I'd messaged Tim like hours after it went live and I was like, can we do one? Can we do sort of like an addendum episode? And so there's a clear example of where if that free trail conversation doesn't exist, that episode that I'm super proud of would never exist. So it is this sort of like flywheel of content. And I know that we are constantly asking new listeners, new viewers for ratings and reviews. One of my just to have like a moment of gratitude here, if you listen to us, but you also listen to them, stop this episode, pause for a second, go leave a rating, leave a review on all these shows. It does matter. It keeps the ecosystem alive. And we only survive if they survive. So we need them very much for many reasons.
I love that. It reminds me of the phrase "a rising tide lifts all ships." I think if the sport and the media and the content in the sport is elevating for everybody, it's only positive for everybody. It's not competition. It's the tide is rising for everyone and all ships rise. So I love that.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. I think we have gotten to the point, both fortunately and unfortunately, where we've become like institutionalized and almost like the status quo. I try to fight against that every single week, but at one point in time, our show was like the new kid on the block trying to stir things up, and I do appreciate that standpoint. And like, here is me publicly saying, if you're new to the space or you're one of these like challenger media companies, please hold the big dogs accountable. Like we need that. That's another part of a healthy media ecosystem. It's what makes our sport great. It's what elevates our own conversations. And I'm a student. I'm a forever student of the space. So I never want to say that like we're resting on our laurels or being comfortable or thinking that we have all the answers. So it's been great to see some of these new ideas in the space as well. I love the meme accounts that are out there that act as sort of a check and balance, Dillisms and you boy Scott Jurek and Max Jall unsolicited memes. Like in a lot of ways, they're holding us accountable too. So it's been great.
In 2025, I have here, and this is kind of something I think is always good to do.
Yep.
When reviewing, talking about a rose and a thorn, one thing that you're proud of that you accomplished in the year, another area where you feel like you fell short or you can improve. So let's start with accomplishment. 2025, what's an accomplishment, single track that you can hang your cap on, you're proud of for the year?
I have to give a 1A and a 1B here. 1A is definitely putting out our first feature-length film, and it was The Finisher. This was something that was largely, and again, if we're distributing credit here, the two people that deserve the most credit are Drew Darby and Jules Campanelli, my wife and co-business partner. Their tag team to get this done was amazing. And then right behind them is Rob Fisher, who did all of the animations and sort of like last minute edits and stuff. Like that trio right there was just so instrumental to putting out that product. And I think I'm proud of it because there is a very strong likelihood that we either don't have the opportunity, or even if we have the opportunity, there's a strong likelihood that we don't put out something that necessarily belongs in the ultra running content canon and is as good, all that kind of stuff. There was just so many fortuitous events that conspired into this one big opportunity for us to seize. We were there at Barkley on a separate shoot for Joe. This story fell into our laps. We had the resources to go and create it, and Jasmine was an amazing contributor, and all these other folks, Jared Campbell and Beverly and Amelia Boone, Courtney, everyone else that like stepped up to contribute to that film, incredible. So there's a strong likelihood that that never happens again, and we're fine with it. We just kind of wanted to seize on that opportunity. And then the other one is just the chance to put out our first owned event, which is the Twisted Fork Trail Festival. 2025 was the first year that we were race directors. It was incredibly challenging and illuminating in a lot of ways. I discovered very quickly, and my friend Tim Tollison, I'm stealing his phrase here, as a race director, you're a glorified janitor. You're just constantly cleaning up messes and keeping the ship barely afloat. And that's kind of how 2025 went. We made a lot of mistakes, but I think on balance, it was a good product. We definitely caught the bug, and I think it's become our favorite part of the business. So 1A, 1B was the finisher and Twisted Fork.
It's awesome. I will say, I think finisher was my, well, close at that, and between that and the chase, two of the best. I mean, not even just last year, but two of the best ultra ranked films I've ever seen. The finisher was incredible. You guys did an amazing job. I know you basically funded that thing yourself to make it happen, and going over to Europe and filming with Jasmine. And it's just cool to see the hard work pay off, because I know it broke 1 million views, and I think pretty much everybody in the sport has seen it. And I think that story was one that needed to be seen and told. And I think the ultra running world, I would say thank you for doing it, because it was a really well told story, and I think people needed to hear that.
Status update, we're about 2 months away, I think, from breaking even on the film. So I do think there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to break even at least via YouTube ad revenue. But yeah, that was a labor of love. I will say a couple things. How cool is it that in the same year we get the kid, we get the chase, we get the finisher, we get David Roche's whole vlog series in the lead up to Western States. My hope is that things only get better collectively in 26, that this was another sort of guidepost year for the sport. Everything that Jeff Peltier creates is gold. Like, this was another like year where it's like, okay, we're going to remember 2025 as this like step function increase, and then we're just going to have that type of content rolling for a few more years, and then we'll have another one maybe a decade from now. But I think this was sort of like a table setting year for quality.
I agree. And even the David Roach, the Javelina film, it was an hour long. And I remember going into it being like, oh, that's long for a race film. Like, I don't know. And then I sat down and watched it, and it flew by. And it was so good. So I think David and Cody have, as far as like an athlete creator combo, have kind of set a new standard for how to document and create race films. Because I think Cody's incredibly talented, but David is an incredible, fascinating human being and a great storyteller. On top of being one of the best athletes in the sport, he's kind of, I guess that would be the new triple threat.
I also loved that we had David Poach, like at the exact same time that David Roche is rolling out this YouTube series. We've got the parody series in tandem. Like, that is amazing. It's what an honor that your vlog series is so mainstreamed in our sport, that your net is so wide that there is an account out there that is dedicated to parodying each vlog. Like, it's one thing to have a meme account on Instagram, because I feel like you can churn those out at a lower cost. But there was a guy who, David Poach, Tim Cannon, I think it was his in real life name, who was making individual episodes parodying David's like one for one. Incredible. I hope we get more of those in the future. Quick thanks to Precision Hydration, the official nutrition partner of the Singletrack podcast. I've said this before, but what I appreciate most about Precision is how practical their approach is. They're not trying to sell you a one-size-fits-all product. Everything starts with understanding your needs, how much you sweat, how much sodium you lose, how many carbs you actually take in per hour. That's why I keep pointing people towards Precision's Fuel and Hydration Planner. We answer a few questions about your body, your pace, the conditions you're racing in, and it gives you a clear, realistic plan that you can actually execute on race day. I've used this process in my own training and racing. It's helped me simplify decisions instead of overthinking nutrition when it matters most. If you want to check it out, head to the link in our show notes, which goes straight to the planner. And if you decide to order anything, feel free to use code SingleTrack at checkout on their site for 15% off your next order. Big thanks to Andy Blow and the entire Precision team for supporting the show.
Okay, so in 2025, that's, I guess, the rows. So where would you say in 2025 you fell short? Areas of improvement.
There's many. There's like 1A through 1C here. I wrote down a couple. The big overhead ones, I had promised early on in 25 that we would have Singletrack merch available. And I'm going to be honest with you, there was never a single day where I sat down at my office and started to put that plan and roll out together. I think it was a huge miss. I think merch is a really cool thing. I think if you're a super fan of Singletrack and you want to identify, wearing the shirt, wearing the hat is a cool way to express that sort of identity with the brand, that kind of like shared livelihood. So it's a huge goal for us in 2026 to move towards. We need it. Like, there's no reason why we don't have it. And I think I need to learn e-commerce and wholesaling and sourcing and stuff like that. So that's my next intellectual challenge in 26. We also said that we were going to put a website up. Singletrack doesn't have a website. We have an event website, mustseefrunning.com, but we don't have a run singletrack.com. I mean, I own the domain, but we don't have a Singletrack website. Like, our home is probably our YouTube channel. So the thing that I actually, my core competency in marketing hasn't even been deployed yet. So it is embarrassing. I know that there's all these concerns about traffic in the AI era. I don't know. I mean, I still think it's super important to have a website. We don't have one. It's embarrassing, but I need to call out what I'm embarrassed about here on this episode. Yeah. I also said that we were going to, every single time that we did an athlete interview or an operator interview or an influencer interview, that they would be these super in-depth Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, Rich Roll style things. It was like 2, 3, 4 hours. And we just didn't get there. If I go back and look at our catalog, I loved the interviews that we did, but we never had these sit-down interviews that go so long that you get into stuff that's not really ultra running related. It's more just like, what do you think about, I don't know, ChatGPT or like just some random like non-endemic topic of conversation. And I don't honestly know if that's going to be a new thing in 26. And this is why I'm also excited about just other media companies out there, because we can only do so much. And maybe these super long episodes that are truly in depth are an area of expertise and focus for someone else, but we kind of punted there. The last thing that we fell short on was just a couple community oriented things here. I wanted to have these regular weekly Singletrack group runs in the Salt Lake area. We did like 2 and they were fun, but I dropped the ball. So, and that's top of mind because over time I do want to do more and more stuff here for sure.
Speaking of you boy Scott Jurek, you mean community runs? Right?
I did see that carousel cassette.
The magic sparkle calling your group runs community runs. Okay, so a follow-up question to, I think it was point B. What do you think? I think the length of the episodes that you do currently are great, but going into those longer, like 2-3 hour conversations, what do you think the biggest hurdle is? Is it just harder to get athletes for that much time, or do you think doing them remotely is challenging? Do you think it'd be easier in person? I don't know. What do you think some of the hurdles are there? Because I feel like in person, those conversations could naturally go a little longer as well. But
there is a phenomenon that happens, I've noticed, and it typically happens around the hour and a half mark in these episodes, where both for the host and the guest, guards are lowered. And I think you're just speaking more freely. And I'm not going to say that everyone comes to these episodes with a front up or an agenda, But I do think, including the host, like me, myself, we're both guarded. And part of the goal of these conversations is to like establish like trust in each other and a relationship and a rapport. And sometimes you've established that right as you're ending the episode. And it typically happens around the 90-minute mark. So I think one of the value props of these 2, 3, 4 hour episodes is like the magic almost happens from hour 2 onward. And that certainly I think happened when we interviewed Mike Versteeg, for example. There's a couple issues. I think you're asking a lot of the guest. Like they need to sit down for 2, 3, 4 hours. That's a lot. So I think it's a lot to ask a guest who has a busy schedule. And then I think it's just confidence and trust that once you run out of material, that there's at what point do you leave Ultra Running and get into these just like other topics? And how do you know that, how do you even know what to get into? So, but it is a challenge. And I think as a student of interviewing and a student of just like the art of conversation, like I'm constantly studying shows, certainly outside of the running space, to get a sense of, what could work there.
Yeah, I listened to a longer one. I think it was campaigns with Killian Korth, and which was released recently.
Yeah.
They do like a whole day thing where it's like they show up, they run in the morning together, then they sit down and do the pod, then they go shoot bows. And it's like a full day media experience, which I think then naturally you let the guards down before the podcast even starts and it naturally flows for a longer time. So I don't know. Well, interesting to see how people,
I think it'd be fun to speculate here because you and I talk business all the time. If you had to guess, because I would love to get to that level of production value where we get to spend a whole day with the guest and the conversation is sort of the last thing that happens, so barriers are broken down. How much do you think that costs to get the guest out there to do that whole like if you had to put a ballpark on that, like how much does each episode cost there? Setting aside Cam, just like that idea, that concept.
I think Cam's easier because he has his studio's at his house. He probably has room to like host people at his house too.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to like put people up in a hotel. But yeah, you're looking at cost of flight. You're looking at probably putting them up in a hotel for 2 nights, meals, wine and dine them a little bit. I would imagine it becomes like a full kind of like experience. Like going out to LA to film with Rich Roll, I would imagine is like, I mean, David Roach would know because he went out and filmed with Rich, but I'm sure it's like a full experience, and you get a tour of the studio and you meet people, and maybe you can go back to his house. He has the pool there. He gives you a tour. They do a photo shoot. It's probably like a whole media day experience would be my guess, and probably a couple grand.
Okay. And if he does 50 episodes a year, let's just say he does one a week, 50 times 5, back of the napkin math, 25 grand. No, more than that. Geez. 250 grand a year. On just that. That's amazing. Okay.
But I mean, they're getting numbers to where
yes,
the AdSense alone could cover it plus sponsorships third. Yeah.
I aspire to that one day experience. Not in the near future, but at some point. Because we're here for the long term.
Well, I think you're like, at least and I was able to be a part of it in 2024, and from a spectator perspective as well, last year, I feel like you're getting there and it is there with Western States. I feel like that the Western States house is and was an experience, and at UTMB.
Yep.
And that's probably what helped facilitate that conversation with Versteeg as well.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So going into this year, I almost said next year, this year, it is 2026. What are you excited about?
It's just another year where we get to do what we love. It's the miracle of life. I never would have thought 5 or 6 years ago that in January 2026, I would be like talking about trail running and facilitating the experience of trail running for other people would be my full-time job. So 2026, I'm excited because my wife, Jules Campanelli, is coming full-time into the business. And she is someone who has been instrumental for years working behind the scenes. We put Sloan to bed, and then from 6 p.m. to midnight each night, we grind on the business. And We are working on social media, working on operations for events. We're thinking about interview questions for upcoming guests, all that. She's always been there, but it's always been like she works her 9 to 5 job, and then we do our family stuff, and then we carve out this space for Singletrack. And so I'm really excited to see what it looks like for our business when like her full energy is totally unleashed and we can get good night's sleeps, we can eat well, we can rest, we can exercise, but then like the work portion is just Singletrack. So it has to be that. And it's a dream come true to be able to work together. And I think for a lot of people too, it's like, don't mix friendships and business, don't mix family and business. I think, Jules and I have been together long enough where like our sense of fun is actually this type of stuff. We're not really, and again, like I wish we're not the type of people to like watch Netflix or to relax. I think like our fun is like the stress of maintaining or growing Singletrack. And so the fact that this gets to be our full-time thing is a blessing. And we're going to try it for a year, I'll say. So it is a huge risk. We've 2 years ago, we got to a point where like Singletrack replaced my previous income, and then we kind of proved it out again in 25. And then we also did this whole scenario planning where we basically like pretended to live on just the Singletrack income as a family for a bit. And so for people that are wondering like, how did they do this? What protocols did they put in place? How did they know it was the right time to go? It was sort of after like 2 years of stable income and then a portion of time pretending to live as if Jules had quit her job and then making that leap.
Well, that's amazing. So Jules will be full-time with Singletrack. I know that this is something you've been dreaming about for a long time.
For years, yeah.
Jules too. And I can only imagine now the mental load on her and being able to just be a part of the business. You guys both be parents and be present home with your kid all day. It's amazing. And I too worked with my wife, Shelby, full-time together. We ran a photography business for 7 years. And like, I look back on that very fondly. I think it's one of the best things that I've ever done is running I with my spouse. And it's just cool to see. I think it makes it feel, I know Jules personally, but I would love to see her in more of the content as well.
What's your biggest piece of advice for making this work? Like, if you reflect back on the 7 years that you guys were in business together, like what piece of advice do you have?
That's a great question. I would say remember why you love doing it and focus on that overall the little details that can like cause stress or get in the way. Because it was a creative business. I love creative work. My wife does as well. And there's a million things in running a business, I think, that can cause stress or strife. And at the end of the day, it's like we both we're getting to do what we loved to do together. And not just like, as a hobby, but as a living and create a life doing that together. And I think that there's a very empowering energy that can come from that. So I think just focusing on that and letting like, whatever you want to call it, the details, the little things, don't let those kind of cast a shadow over that creative spark that can bring you guys together. And I think have like the exponential growth factor to pushing you guys to where you want to be.
Amazing. I should say here too that, and I mentioned, for example, Drew Darby and Rob Fisher earlier in the conversation. I mentioned you right up front and stoked you're here. I would say the reason Singletrack has gotten to the point that it's gotten is there have been just hyper talented and excited people that have largely by chance come into this ecosystem and done great work. So like on the media side of things, Brett Hornig, Leah Yingling, Jeff Colt, Alyssa Clark. On the creative side of things, Scott, Noah Reese, Emily Cameron, Mike McMonigal. Like, and again, I'm not naming all the names. Like, there are so many names to name or people to name, but we've gotten to the point we've gotten because of the people that have dedicated their excitement and expertise here. And I would say Jules has been the biggest one, and it's all been behind the scenes. And there's a story to tell there. Not enough time here, but yeah, just for the audience, just know that she has been this absolute force financially, operationally, managerially, socially, and I'm excited to see what comes in 26.
Awesome. So speaking of that, what are going in next year? New offerings from Singletrack. Is there anything new? Obviously, we've talked about Buffalo Run, but what else? What other new offerings are coming to the Singletrack metaverse, the world of Singletrack?
We're committing to merchandise. I am quadrupling down here. There will be Singletrack merchandise in 2026. It may be a total flop. It may be the case that no one actually wants shirts, hats, the like, but we're going to do it. I think even if it doesn't do well financially, I want the experience of that whole economic process. I find it fascinating. We did have a whole separate episode, but we are the new race directors for the Antelope Island Buffalo Run and the Fall Classic later this year. Obviously, Twisted Fork is happening too, so we've got this whole new set of events. I am not doing the Cocodona 250 this year as a runner, but we are going to be doing coverage for it similar on scale and scope to Western States and UTMB. We won't be on the ground, but we will be doing like a pretty built out, significant coverage product for it, so stay tuned there. And then you've seen it dripped out, but our Singletrack news product on Instagram. We're not the first social media outlet or company to do news on the sport. Trail Runner Mag, I Run Far, Free Trail, Mountain Outpost, the list goes on. But we have sort of our own perspective on it. We want to raise the profile of certain events. We want to bring certain conversations into the fold. For example, we did a post a few days back where, I was scrolling social. I saw that Killian Korth made this bold claim about Cocodona this year. Mike McKnight followed that up with his own bold claim. I'm like, this is cool. Like, yes, we're 4 or 5 months out from Cocodona, but like they're already starting the talk about it, the hype about it. So we made a post kind of contrasting their perspectives and then used it as an opportunity for this like water cooler moment to get the conversation started on Cocodona. So expect more of those types of posts. And yeah, that's about it.
Love it. I will say that's one thing I want to see more of in 2026 is people that aren't afraid to call their shot. Like, like Killian's and Mike both saying like they want it and they're going after it, or love him or hate him, Trua Haynes saying that he wants to qualify for the Olympic trials. Yeah, it's like I would love to see more of that, and then that I think that just fuels the pro athlete fire to put the work in and back it up. It's like, and David Roche, perfect example of that, right? He did that last year with Western States. We all saw what happened there, but
people don't want to admit that they like being entertained. And I understand that talk is cheap. I'm a talking head. Talk is very cheap. And I understand that people don't want to see others spraying. But like stakes are so important. And
it raises the stake.
These are people that are taking it upon themselves to create stakes and further make these events more compelling. So I think there's just enough space for people in sport that are loud about their ambition as there is for people who are being quiet, working hard behind the scenes and showing up on race day, either as we like to call it, a random baller or just this more like reserved personality. And both are necessary because you need the quiet person for the loud person to make sense and vice versa.
Okay. 2026. What's the Singletrack partnership lineup looking like?
We've got Norda coming back as our official footwear partner. Really excited about them. They've got the 0055 coming out this late spring, early summer, I think. It was rolled out at TRE. It's beautiful. It's a trail super shoe. I think it's more oriented towards UTMB type terrain. It's going to be amazing. Bringing back Raid Research as our official equipment partner. They've got a pack now, which is amazing. They've got the LF2L belt, which I've got over here. Amazing. And then a couple new partners. We've got a new nutrition partner, Precision Hydration. And we've got Janji as a new apparel partner. Intermittently, we'll have Momentous as sort of like a supplement partner on the podcast, as well as Kodiak Cakes as a breakfast partner. I'll say a couple things just in general about our philosophy of partnerships. We like long-term partnerships. If you look at most of our stuff, for example, last year we had NAC as our nutrition partner. They were there for 2 years. Goreware was there for 2 years. It's not easy to make changes. I know that audience trust in these like host-read ad reads is super important. So just know that like if and when things change, um, I think the change has typically happened for like an important philosophical reason and or like a brutal nature of business. Like for example, Goreware is going out of business. Like we would love to continue with them, but they're closing up shop at the end of March. In steps Janji. Like I'm wearing the Janji, this merino wool sweatshirt right now. Like they make fantastic product. Like while I'm sad to see Goreware leaving because we love the stability, Janji's amazing, and we have a lot of reasons why we resonate with them. They're a New England-based brand. They make like 200 plus mile specific product, which I resonate with. This stuff is super comfortable. It's fashionable. So like we do make pivots, but it's thought out. It's not like we're just looking for the highest bidder or desperately looking for just anything to fill the space. Like if we hadn't found Janji, I think we would have just left the apparel category open until something came along. So that's just a bit of insight on our process. Every single one of these partnership deals is at least 12 months in length. Yeah. Any questions from you on the partnership stuff?
Do any of these partners, how does it work? Do you have affiliate codes that are listed in, whether that's like a little link on socials where people can go and use these codes to support the channel? Or, some people would say, best way to support the channel, use the discount code, go to John G Singletrack 20 for whatever. Or what do the partnerships look like?
Great question. It's across the board. It's different for our partners. You look at Norda and Raid, for example, they do not want their products discounted. I think they just want the association and the name recognition. So with Norda, we'll talk about new product and just kind of like personal experience with them, but there's no call to action other than to go check out the site. Same thing with Raid. It's like, okay, this new belt is out, this new pack is out. Here's how and why I use it. Go to the site. And I think it's this very soft sell awareness type play. Precision, I think their motivation is sort of educational in nature. We obviously have a big market here in North America, and we speak to every single type of runner. I think they appreciate that exposure. We do have a code with them, a discount code. I think it's just Singletrack at checkout gets you 15% off. But I also think that they appreciate the soft sell and they want to educate the market on, their philosophy around hydration and carbohydrate intake. Janji, and this is new, but we will not have a discount code with them. I think they're phasing out codes. It's more like exit surveys. So a person makes a purchase on their site. We are judged, I believe, based on how many times Singletrack is mentioned in those surveys. How'd you find out about us? What prompted this purchase? You can typically like select the category podcast. And then from there, there's a whole list of shows they sponsor. And it's like, okay, select Singletrack. So different across the board, different philosophies, but am seeing the code usage play phased out. Less and less companies are using codes and more are relying on surveys and or just the pure awareness play, special links, stuff like that.
Awesome. And are these sponsors podcast specific sponsors, or are there any that will be affiliated with potential YouTube film projects this year?
This year, for example, Precision is all encompassing. There'll be a supporter for our race coverage in person, our events, and the podcast. Norda is podcast and our race coverage. Raid is sort of all encompassing as well. Janji, just the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You convinced me to get the Raid 2FL this year.
Using it at Hurt?
I'm using it at Hurt.
Okay.
And it'll be packed full of precision. And some hyperlight, but Frank's. And that thing changed the game for me running. You've got to use it, but it's incredible. It's the best, I think, piece of running equipment I've ever bought. Because you can carry, I use the 650 ml bottles in that, so I can carry like almost 1.5 liters with 2 bottles in there and no bounce. And it, yeah, don't have to wear a pack anymore ever. So that thing's amazing.
Making packs obsolete.
And okay. Do you have, I guess, outside of the podcast, what can people expect from Singletrack in 2026? What projects does Singletrack have cooking this year?
My personal projects in 26. So I was flirting with Cocodona forever this past fall. In fact, at one point, I was even on the start list. And for many reasons, for example, one of them being Jules coming into the business, we kind of have to tighten our financial belts. I am not going to do Cocodona this year just because it is a major investment. And yeah, I just don't have the financials to justify it. I am going to be staying local this year. One of my favorite poets, Gary Snyder, once said that the most radical thing you can do is stay home. And it's high time that right? Off the top of the dome. Yeah, it's high time after spending so many years on the road that I get to know my backyard better. And I think the farthest that I will drive to go to a race, I might go down to St. George and do something like the Red Mountain 50K later this spring. But my core focus is in June, the Scout Mountain 100. The Nelson Felly puts that on up in Pocatello, Idaho. Fantastic, 2 hours away. And then in late September, I am doing the Bear 100.
You're in.
I'm in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you said Scout Mountain 100.
Yes.
So
Scout
all 100s.
100. Both hundreds. One in early June, one in late September. I think there's enough recovery training time in between to make it make sense. I have 2 friends, Mike McMonagle, who's doing both those as well, so we might reignite the rivalry there. And then colleague Brett Hornig is signed up for Bear. In the open, and this is maybe something you and I riff on, the open question. So one of the craziest things that happened in 2025 is how much we grew on YouTube. At the beginning of the year, we had like 6,000 subs. At the end of the year, we're about to hit 30. About a quarter of that was the finisher. Another 10% was like a recap we did of this year's Barkley. And then another 10% was David Goggins, like a David Goggins one-off video. But a lot of it was just like the slow drip of like this Noah Reese content and all this archival stuff that like you made and stuff. So YouTube was this banner year for us. We grew so many X's. It was just exponential, like through the roof, stratospheric growth. What happens when you don't have the resources and or a clear plan to continue capitalizing on that? And the open question for me is, with the projects that I'm doing, with my skill set and or lack thereof, some hesitancy to be behind the camera, what do we do to keep YouTube alive next year or this year? Because it's 2026. This year, what do we do? And the open question is like, do I vlog for Scout and Bear? Do I just kind of rely on a slower growth year with podcasts and stuff like that? I don't know what to do. So what do you think? What should I do? I'm putting you on the spot.
Let's go throwback Seth James Damore question of the day. What should Finn do, guys? Comment down below. You remember that?
Yeah, one time I told him to do Cocodona. He's like, oh my gosh. And then he went into this whole riff of 200 miles. I don't even drive that far. Yeah.
Oh, those daily vlogs. Yeah. Anyway, I would say, so follow-up question back to you. I would flip that and say, not what should you do? I would say, what do you want to do? What creatively interests you?
I have always said that I want to get into like shooting video and editing video. It's always been this like aspirational thing that I've wanted to do. I think it's cool, but I know that there is like another side to it that is very monotonous, painful. You know, you're pulling out your hair. And so like, do I actually like for as much as I want the joys of it and the product that comes out of it, do I want like the late nights and, you know, being in your editing cell? And so I don't know, like, am I willing to be a beginner at video? I guess is the question. But I do think the vlog stuff would be cool, not because I want to be behind the camera, but just because Mike and I have this hilarious rivalry that I think it'd be cool to look back on over time and be like, oh yeah, we had this like moment in our mid-30s. We were like new parents and had like this like shred of athleticism left. Like what happened at those races? What were we talking about in the lead up?
I will say I think the bear is like, have you ever read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point?
Um, no, but I read some of his other stuff with David and Goliath and stuff.
So basically talks about how things reach this tipping point. Once it hits it, it kind of reaches global impact. Like it'll just hit a point to where it's no longer controllable and everybody starts to see it. Like, I mean, the freaking Maduro getting arrested in gray sweatsuit, and now this gray sweatsuits are sold out on Nike's website. Well, it's not. It hits a tipping point, and then everybody buys the sweatsuits, and it's just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And I think that something similar could happen at the Bear, and I think that it would be worth documenting and telling a story like that of just like friendly competition at the race. I think people would love to follow along and see that, and I think it could give the Bear. I think there's a chance that the Bear kind of has a moment this year. I think it's been building towards it for a while, and I think could kind of cement itself as like the Utah event.
I think I need to be talked through the self-consciousness that comes with being new at this after years in which our channel was provided high quality content that like you made, that Drew made, that Noah made, that Emily made. Like there's a precedent of like a fairly high quality of content. And now I'm going to layer on my best attempt at putting it together. Like walk me through why that's going to be okay or why it could not be okay.
Well, I think there's a few things you could do. Maybe this could be a Jeff Pelletier question, but you could start a blog channel, a separate like single track blog channel that's separate from the main channel. So the main channel stays podcast and films, and you have a separate channel that's just vlogs. Or
do you like that strategy? Should they separate?
When I worked for a YouTuber that had millions of subs, that's what they would have done, is create a separate channel. But that's because, you know, they had reached a point to where their audience expected a certain product on the channel. And if they were going to deviate from that, it had to be a new channel.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I would say at the end of the day, lean into your creativity and curiosities. And if it's something you want to do and you're stoked on it, that will come through on camera and your audience will get stoked about it as well, regardless of production quality.
Okay.
And I think the thing that's most important, like that, it's so easy to get caught up on production quality, but I think the thing that matters most is story and idea. And like we talked about stakes get people invested, not production quality. Yeah. And so if the stakes can be clear and they're there and the YouTube video has a good title, thumbnail, concept, idea. Like Mr. Beast, I think said it best. The difference between a video that gets 1,000 views and 100 million views isn't a better camera. It's not better lighting. It's not better editing. It's just a better idea. Yeah. Just more, it's the stakes. And so if those are there, right? And if you can have like, I would say a standard for what the stakes are going to be in a content series or in a video, that should be the standard, not the production quality. Because if those are there, people are going to want to pop their popcorn, grab their coffee, sit down and watch it because it's going to have a compelling stake or story unfold. And that's what people want to see.
The first one that came to mind, Dylan Bowman. He's just dedicated the last 5 years of his life to building Free Trail. In the process, focuses less on what he once was, a professional athlete, gets into Hard Rock this year. The question is, can I be a pro athlete? Like, can I perform at a professional level again? Do I have one more in me? Amazing stakes.
I'm invested. Yeah. Honestly, me too.
And then for us here, it's like, I can't lose to Mike. I can't lose to Brett. Like, will it happen? Like, will I rise to the occasion or no, do I lose?
Yeah. Who else is in it on the men's side?
Well, so the cool thing is the Bear has a Bear Tag series. So there's a bunch of races, including Buffalo. Like Devin Pancake is going for a Bear Tag at Buffalo, and a couple guys I think Liam Fleming is going for one at Twisted Fork, and then you've got Snow Peaks, you've got the Scout 50. Eli White just got one at DCP.
Yep. See, he's running Buffalo too.
So there's going to be I think there's going to be a pack of guys who are going to push it. And a lot of eggs are going to crack, but there's going to be a couple that don't.
That's crazy. Well, I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah.
Hearing that now, I'm like, I've always loved the bear, but that makes things a little more interesting this year. That's going to be fun to watch.
You know what's cool? Actually, Mike had a channel that I think he might revive, but if you look at it, it has like 1,000 subs, but each of the videos was 4xing his sub count.
So-
Amazing ratio.
I think Mike has a similar, he's a great storyteller.
Yeah.
He's captivating. He's going camera.
Yep.
Okay. So are there any other outside of those two races? You said Scout Mountain 100, Bear 100. Any other projects?
That's about it. I don't think we're going to do anything on the long form cinematic documentary front. There were a couple ideas that I was pursuing. I will say this one out loud because I don't think we're going to get it, which is totally fine, but I desperately want to see someone make it. And so if this helps get it made, great. There is a lot of footage out there of Scott Jurick's 2015 FKT of the Appalachian Trail. And we have very few archival films in our sport that go back in time and explore a key historical moment. Someone needs to make that film. If it's Netflix, if it's a creator in the sport, it needs to get done. We would love to make it, but more than us making it, I want someone to make it. So it's like, I'm just putting it out there, someone make that film.
Yeah, I could see that evolving almost into just like an AT film. Yeah, that's like first 30 minutes about Scott Jurek, then you talk about, Tara, because Garmeyer, that could be huge. That could be huge, big film.
And unfortunately, he came up in an era when there weren't millions of cameras at every single event, at least video. And so a lot of his career was not documented, but this moment was. And what a gift that we could compile a film that memorializes that watershed. I mean, that is the moment that brought me in the sport. So if Scott Jurek doesn't do the AT, I never find out about ultra running because I was a thru hiker. So he was my portal into trail. The feed, the algorithm sent me that and then his books. So it's sentimental in a lot of ways for us.
So to somebody, say like myself, who's never been on the AT, and coming from you, who has probably, I'm a believer that suffering in a place, you develop a really intimate connection to it.
Oh yeah.
Right. So what would be your pitch of the AT? What makes it so special?
It's an amazing natural setting that is also highly social. So it's one of those places that a lot of people with the same outlook or aspirational views on life happen to meet in the same place. So it's like going to college and meeting everyone in your dorm room that's also studying political science or finance or whatever, and you get to just be among this cohort that you want to follow your life's work with. The Appalachian Trail is the same thing, but for the outdoors. It's like college for the outdoors,
where you can have a shared experience with people who are on the pursuit of something similar.
Yeah, and it's along the way you experience your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of that education, and very few people finish that thing and are so fundamentally changed that they probably end up doing something totally different than what they thought they were going to do setting out. I thought I was going to finish that trail and then keep going on this path to law school and politics and stuff like that, and it totally warped me. And it took a little bit after the fact, but it got me right to where I am today.
Yeah, I think that could be a fascinating film, even if it's about the AT and just exploring that idea of transcendence, what it is to, be with a group of people and come out the other side a completely different person. Well, but anyway, I think that would be amazing. But that's a maybe.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is we had Scott in studio at Western States, and he brought it up on the show. So this isn't the first time we're even talking about it in the public. It came from his lips. I know that they have the footage and there's opportunities. And so I just like instigating things. And I think our philosophy at Singletrack is it's less so that like we want to get ours. Obviously, we want to stay afloat and keep the lights on, but we more so exist because we think we can help push some things forward. And when our time comes that we're no longer relevant or this isn't sustainable, we'll happily exit stage left. And I say this like flippantly, but like I mean it. If it means going to work at Starbucks, we'll do it. Like we only want to be here as long as we can do quality work and we're a value to the audience. And yeah, I never want to get into that like overly capitalistic mindset or, you know, just feeling like because we got to this point, we like deserve to be here. I want to keep reproving ourselves every day. And this is like less so. I mean, it is a business, but like it's a vocation too, you know?
That's giving me Mamba mentality. Kobe Bryant interviewed after game two up in the series. Yeah. What's there to celebrate? Job not finished.
It's never, no, and it will never be. We are one link in a massive evolutionary chain for the sport that came way before us, and it's going to vastly outlive us. And so if you operate in that mindset, it's very hard to be possessive of ideas or properties, anything like that. You just hope to like play your role in moving things forward just a little bit. And I hope everyone else tries. I believe in that outlook for the sport. And so I hope by speaking that here, other people agree with it and make it their own as well.
Cool. Love it. Okay, so diving into some audience questions. These are sourced, I believe, either from Instagram or YouTube. Questions from the audience to you. Which, it's kind of two-parter. What experience in the sport have reshaped your worldview? I guess you mentioned the AT already there, and just long trail in general. And what areas of the sport would you want to explore next?
I would say that, and I don't know if there has been like this watershed moment or pivotal moment where my worldview was changed. I think it's been very gradual over the last 5 years. And I think it's probably easy for me to say now because we are at a relative point of stability, but I am increasingly less interested in the business of sport part of this and the making money part. I think I was initially interested in it because I was just breaking in, and I wanted to know what the business models were. I wanted to know how people made money so that we could make informed decisions ourselves. And I think, and this is good, we're at a point where talking about that stuff is as commonplace as talking about like how you train, what your nutrition is, the psychology piece of it, post-race reports. Like it's become such a core part of the conversation track in any episode of any podcast in our sport that like, let's go find out what the next thing is. I'm not saying I know what it is, but I don't think it's not like taboo to talk about contracts or agents or stuff like that. It's like oxygen now.
We've had agents on the show. Which I thought that was one of my favorites.
Yeah. So I would just say at this point, I'm interested in like being a student of the sport and being new at something. I'm really interested in history. That's like the Scott Jurek archival stuff. There's so much that I don't know. The longer that I've been in the sport, the more I realize I don't know shit. And actually it turns out if you really study things, everything that we claim is new has been done earlier in the history of this sport, maybe with less production value and quality, but like we're just kind of reinventing the wheel in a lot of ways. So I think I want to be a student again and a historian and see what comes out of that search. But I'm like back into like this is like freshman year in trail again. Like I want to be new at just appreciating what's come before us. That's interesting to me. So maybe that becomes a recurring theme in episodes. I don't know. Maybe we bring a lot of people from different eras on. But
yeah, an interesting series too could be just riffing on content series or ideas. History events, history of races.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Peltier posed the idea of like a history of cinema and trail, starting with Unbreakable,
Unbreakable, of course.
through Billy Yang stuff, through the chase, and like that represents one era of like cinema in our sport.
Yeah, even diving like you kind of did this a little bit, but like I'd be interested to know, and this builds to story is, history of the Buffalo Run. But you told me that that used to be an 800 person event. That's bigger than Leadville. Yes, it's crazy. Yeah. So those are things I think would be really fascinating too.
We need another book. This is another call to action. It has been a long time since something like Born to Run was published in our sport. I love the written word. Someone out there needs to work on our generation's literature.
I don't think there's the last great ultra running book was Can't Hurt Me.
David Hawkins, yeah. Yeah.
Someone's got to step up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Killian could probably write an incredible book. Absolutely. I'm sure it's in the works. Okay. What part of Singletrack's identity feel like clearer now than a year ago?
Two things. One, that on the event side of things, we are so clearly a Salt Lake City, Park City company, and we want to service this area. And over time, as we build capacity, we want to focus more and more of our energies here. I almost think in some ways it's not a mistake, but we started national and international with our media things, and then we went local. And I think you're in a better position if you like invest local and then think broadly. It's like inch wide, mile deep. So I think we're retracking our steps and putting together a plan for just how we can be better servants of what's right in front of us than what's way out there. And then I've been saying this for years, so I just think we feel it stronger year over year. We are not the top of the funnel for the sport. We are for the people that are hardcore fans of trail and can't get enough and want deeper conversations and content about stuff, like, okay, we get that you understand trail, but here's like a whole nother layer to it. Like, let's celebrate people that want that are insatiable in their interest for the sport.
Okay, awesome. I have two more questions here from the audience. First, what parts of the single track business still feel a little fragile?
Advertising is always going to feel fragile, and
As in sponsors?
yeah, and like the whole business model for our podcast right now, I would say we only have security 1 year out. So for the next 11 months, we're good. But right around, we have our own contract season. It's September to November, sometimes into December each year. And there's always uncertainty to it. I think one of the best things that we did, even though it came from a very wholesome place, getting into events was great because it diversified the business. Getting into race coverage was great because that's a whole separate product that diversified the business. And so if there's a downturn in the market or one of the 3 or 4 channels is off or fails, we can stand on another pillar. But yeah, for the first 3 years of Singletrack, we were purely an ad-funded podcast, and that's scary. There's people out there that do different methods. I mean, I know the Roches with Some Work All Play do have sponsors, but I think the backstop there, and I've talked about it everywhere, is their Patreon. They do Patreon amazing. And they kind of follow the Kevin Kelly 1,000 True Fans model there. I don't know how we would do Patreon, but that has always been so cool to me. And also, thankfully, we love our partners. Like, I would love to work with Precision for the next 10 years and Norda for the next 10 years and Raid and Janji. Like, we're so fortunate to be in a position where, like, yes, we're with these folks for the next year, but like, we hope that's just the beginning. But that will never change. We're kind of at the whims of the market there.
This is a question from a follow-up question, and I think, if you now knowing what you know, being in the sport for 5 years, negotiating multiple contracts, being able to create stability and do this full time, it's amazing. What advice would you give to aspiring creatives in the sport, or even aspiring athletes in the sport, or like people who are in the realm of like looking for their first contract or looking for their first deal, trying to make it? What advice would you give?
Well, I think when you start out, you need to have a point of view. it doesn't necessarily have to chafe against what's already out there, but it has to be a point of view that is truly yours. And then you have to have a love and an excitement that doesn't even need proving. Like, people come to you telling you that they see it in the content. And that just goes to say that if you are doing what you love, it is going to inherently show up in things. So just really ask yourself the tough questions around, am I doing this because I truly love it? Am I doing it because I think I'm supposed to? Or this is like a fun game to try to hack? Like, really ask those questions. And then on the sponsorship side of things, I mean, I think it's important to note that we did 100 episodes of Singletrack. I think it was 110 episodes of Singletrack before we made a dime. Shout out to Kodiak Cakes, by the way. They were our first ever partner, and they are still our partner today. Incredible. Like, we make fun of the phrase "take a chance" on the show. They did take a chance on Singletrack. We were this lowly outlet, and shout out to my good friend Sam Losi, who's been an amazing internal advocate for us there. He kind of created the bridge and maintains the bridge. He's been amazing. Just, you have to go into these things knowing that for 100 episodes or many years, you're not going to have any breaks. You just have to grind and work on your product, your skills, and maybe there is a change in the future where it becomes a financial thing, but maybe not too. You have to be like, I would still do this show if there were no sponsors, if there was no money. It would just be a hobby, but I wouldn't stop. And so that's typically how I know things are going to win, if the person behind the product is playing an infinite game and they truly love it. If you're not, if you need some sort of financial justification for it to work out to keep going, you're going to fail, likely.
I would agree with that 1,000%. I think that's great advice. All of the creators that I've had a chance to work with in the YouTube world would say the same thing.
Yeah.
They, like, the first AdSense check that they got was like, oh, that's sick, but it didn't change their lives because they were already doing it, and they would have kept doing it forever no matter what.
So yeah. And are you thinking about it when you're not supposed to be thinking about it? Like, I wake up every day thinking about Singletrack. I wake up every day excited to go on a run and put headphones on to study an interview that a future guest did on another show. So just ask those questions. So, like, is this what you think about in your free time? Because that's another great sign.
Cool. Okay. Oh, this question just popped up here. Did Caleb Olson get snubbed in the UROI?
I am so proud of Caleb. I met him at the 2019 Corner Canyon 50K. He ended up becoming one of my best friends over the years, and I saw his talent from a mile away. And I don't know if he got snubbed, but I'm glad that in the last 2 years he has broken out onto the international scene and is recognized as one of the greatest in the sport right now, and is making a living out of it. It's amazing to just sit back and witness.
All right. Last question. What are your dream interviews?
Oh. Number one is Phil Knight. My favorite running book of all time is Shoe Dog. I know he is getting up there in age. I think he might be 89 years old. So I don't know in what shape he is to do an interview, but he is the number one. Like, I stand at the ready. I will do whatever, wherever he needs me to be to do the interview, I would go do it. So if anyone out there has strings that they can pull to make it happen, Phil Knight is my dream interview. Number two is John Krakauer. He would be 1B. It's like 1A Phil Knight, 1B John Krakauer. So yeah, if anyone has a connection there, I've read all of his works. I've watched all his interviews. I stand at the ready. I have like my list of what I would ask him. Boom. Last one is Kyle Merber, who was a longtime contributor at Sidious Mag and became the director of marketing this past year at Grand Slam Track. I feel like he would probably, I mean, I have his email and I've tried to reach out to him, haven't had any luck. He is someone that I have wanted to talk to for years. So if anyone has a connect there, Kyle. So those three, I would say.
Awesome. Shoe Dog would be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. Okay. Any last words?
Just thanks to you for conducting this interview and making it easier. I I don't know if I'm alone, but I think one of the most awkward things is looking at a list of questions, asking the question, then just like talking without someone to look at into the mic. I feel like my voice changes and answers are weirdly produced, so this feels more natural.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. I love doing it. It was a blast.
All right, folks, that was it. That was our 2025 State of Singletrack year in review episode. Thanks to Scott Hickenlooper. And yeah, I guess just the final message here is we'll see you in the new year. And thanks for your continued support because it allows us to keep the lights on here doing what we do.